Okay, buying and selling shares. What are shares? They're a small piece of ownership in a company. These pieces of ownership, you can trade them with other investors or you can hold on to them so you can be paid dividends, which are part of the company's profits each year. Some of the most common calculations used in shares are buying and selling. You're going to hammer these over and over and over again. You're going to do them multiple times in your assignment as well. I will show you how to use Excel spreadsheet to trivialize your DI. There's literally a video of me finishing all the maths in the shares DI in half an hour using the Excel spreadsheet. So once again, that'll prevent all your excuses for doing an assignment that you've got 5 weeks to do if it can be done in half an hour. So both buying and selling shares calculations involve the same 3 parts. The first part is the consideration. It's the value of the shares that are being traded. So how do I find the consideration? The consideration is equal to the number of the shares times by the buy or the sell price. The brokerage, you cannot go to a shop and buy and sell shares yourself. These days, you've got an app like Superhero or Self-Wealth. In the old days, you have to go to a stockbroker. You can't buy them yourself. So you have to pay someone to do it for you. What do you pay that person? It's called brokerage. So brokerage can either be a percentage of the consideration or it can be a flat fee. So there's 2 different possible ways, and we're going to see them both today, that you'll calculate brokerage. Brokerage is either going to be brokerage rate as a decimal times by the consideration, or brokerage is the flat fee that's stated. And lastly, the third part, the GST in Australia, it's called the Goods and Services Tax. It's currently 10%. Shares don't exist. Shares are just an idea on paper. So we can't charge GST on them. They don't exist. What's the only, goods? A good is like a freaking banana or a chicken that they've cooked, okay? A service is something that someone's done for you. Because shares don't exist, are they a good? No. Has a service been provided by someone here?
Yes.
The brokerage. Either a guy did it or someone's app bought or sold the shares for you. So in Australia, the GST is going to be 10% of the brokerage. What's 10% as a decimal? 0.1 times by whatever the brokerage is. And the only other 2 things you need to add here, when you're buying shares, you add the brokerage and GST to the consideration, and that'll tell you how much it costs to buy all the shares. When you're selling, you take away the brokerage and GST from the consideration, and that tells you how much you got from selling the shares. If you need this, you have time now. Now we'll do some examples. We'll use NVIDIA as an example. It might be interesting. And if I'd invested in NVIDIA, I wouldn't be a teacher, would I? I'd be in the Lambo. So if you are from general maths, you'd already been hammered by shares. So the first term of general maths in year 12, it may be annoying or boring for you. That's fine. Because if we can do a 15% assignment and an 8% test on something that you'd already just been doing, it's actually better for your marks, okay? So you can get over the boredom or whatever, because really, it's about your ATAR, right? You should be praising it, that you're just continuing on something that you'd already been hammering, okay? So yeah, all your tests, you have 5 tests, they're all worth 8%. 40% of your whole grade is based on tests. 2 assignments, each worth 15%, so 30% is on assignments. And that's 70, so the last 30% is your exam at the end of the year, okay? All right, let's do actual maths. Example for buying. What would the total cost of buying 100 NVIDIA shares at 4 cents each on the 22nd of January 1999 when they first listed, and we're going to assume a brokerage of 2%. So I'm not making that up. That's the actual price of it. You can see here today Nvidia is $136.71 USD per share. When they first listed, when they first existed as a company, you could buy a share in Nvidia for 4 cents each in 1999, okay? So, what are the three parts of a buying or selling shares calculation? There was three. We just hammered them, yeah?
There's the, you have share price.
No, it started with a C, the first part.
Oh, sorry, consideration.
Good. Cons, brokerage, and what was the last bit?
Tax.
GST. The consideration was the number of shares. How many Nvidia shares are we pretending to buy? 100 times by 0.04. The consideration is going to be that's going to be $4 to buy those 100 Nvidia shares. Brokerage is 2% here. What is 2% as a decimal? 0.2?
0.02.
Good. 0.2 would be 20%, and that would be ripping you off if you were paying 20% brokerage. 0.02 times by the consideration, which is $4, is going to be... You're going to pay the app or the broker 8 cents. GST is 10%. What's 10% as a decimal? 0.1 times by, is it 0.1 times by the consideration? 0.1 times by the brokerage. Ooh, 0.008. And in buying shares, what do I do with everything? I add it together because we're trying to work out how much it costs. So 804. In 1999, you're just sitting around on your couch playing your, I don't know, Super NES or something, and then you're like, oh, this Nvidia company sounds pretty interesting. I might spend $4.08. 9 cents. Sorry, I'll round. That's not quite right. Oop. That's going to be $4.09 to 2DP to buy 100 shares in this company. Okay? Now, we looked at today's price. It was, that changed in literally the last minute, $136.02. Today, which is the what's the date? 26th. Assume brokerage is a flat fee. So let's pretend that now you've grown as a person. You want to sell those shares and see what you'll make. 3 sections of buying or selling. Consideration. I'm going to burn all my shares, 100 of them, 100 times buy. What are they worth each? $136.02. So that's going to be 136.02, $13,602. Brokerage. Is brokerage a percentage this time, or is it a flat fee? Do I need to do any maths to work out what $32 is? No, so it's just going to be 32. GST, 10%, 0.1 times by the brokerage, which is going to be $3.20. Do I add all of these together? No. I take them, so I'm going to minus. I should have added plus and plus here. You can't subtract like 3 things at a time. You can only do it 2, so you can use the calculator. 13602 is what I should get from selling the shares. But did I have to pay a guy to do it? So minus 32. And do I have to pay the Australian government 10% of that service provided? Minus 3.2. So your profit, your capital gain, would be $13,566.80 if that was to happen. Okay? Unlike in methods and everything where you've got these really abstract concepts, that's possibly real. There's nothing that we're doing dodgy about this. Okay? So that is your shares lesson.